This NFL head coach power rankings and odds episode of the NFL Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Circa Sports. Circa Sports is back with their Circa Survivor and Circa Millions contest. $14 million up for grabs. Get all the details right now at circasports.com.
I'm just about that action, boss.
You have to be kidding me. That is impossible.
I'm raising the ante. Anybody wants any deal?
He is Houdini.
Jordan Davis, dog. Jalen Hurts, dog. A.J. Brown, dog. How many of you want to eat a W tonight?
That's right. Welcome in. It is, of course, the NFL Gambling Podcast here on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Another full house here. Ryan McIntyre, Justin Mark. We are here to talk NFL head coaches, power rankings, and, of course, as we always do, talk a little odds for Coach of the Year, just to give you guys a little bit to more futures to chew on as we prepare for the NFL season that is getting ever so close. I know that this is not a fantasy podcast, but of course, fantasy drafts in full swing, which means, of course, football season is heating up. I'm so excited for it. I cannot wait, and I'm pretty happy. Although, while you guys talk, I'm going to grab something and show it. But Ryan, how excited are you for this to happen?
Very excited, and we are 50 days away. So we're under 50 days now till Chiefs Lions. So it's coming. Guys will be reporting to camp here soon. You got Aaron Rodgers in a Jets uniform. He's looking good, JMark. How are you, JMark?
I'm ready for all the smoke and mirrors storylines. Like, oh, this guy looks like the best in camp, and then he doesn't even see the field all year. I'm excited for all those lies and deceit that gets our hopes up and then breaks our hearts all at once.
I'm ready for Coach Speak to lead everybody in different directions and just make it to where no one knows what's going on. I wanted to grab this. I finally, after 7 years of having my own league and having this belt passed off from person to person, won my fantasy football championship belt. I don't care that nobody cares. I do, and I finally brought it home the other day. So I'm going to flaunt it because no one in this house cares. So you guys get to see it. I am a fantasy football champion. And I'm freaking happy about it. So
love it. Nice
job.
It.
Love it, Rod. Looks right. Good on you, my man. Sorry. So yeah, no, we got the full house, baby.
Somebody needed to know. Anyway, yes, of course it is. We're going to talk NFL head coaches. We've already talked through a bunch of the positions: receiver, tight end, running back. This is our opportunity to talk head coaches. Nick says, "Hey, that's my fantasy football championship belt." Oh, nice. I love it. I'm telling you, those are the best. Anybody can get a trophy. You got to get a belt in your league if you don't have one already. But again, yes. So we're talking head coaches, and listen, there's a few new names in a few new places. So obviously it kind of skews things. But as we start to look into the odds, as we do every episode, there's some shocking names up at the top, and we were discussing it a little bit before we got on. But as these names start to pop up, you'll probably be scratching your head as well. And I'm thinking we're going to have some healthy debate on these.
Yeah, and we were talking pre-episode. There's so many different ways where you could go with this, whether you're going off rings, winning percentage, if this coach had this quarterback. I mean, we all have all our picks. I picked Joe Gibbs. He's at the top of my list. I think JMark's going with Mike Ditka, and Rod's going with Bill Walsh. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how our lists differ here.
Yeah. And again, this isn't the who's like the best coach, right? Who's the absolute best coach? This award is based off of a narrative driven thing. So I feel like our rankings aren't necessarily going to line up with this award because the award's narrative based. We're kind of, I think anyways, I did when I was breaking it down. It's like, okay, if I could pick a coach to be the coach of the team I like, if I could pick a coach for the Bears, which 10 do I want and in what order? Because that's the guy I want that is making the decisions for my team.
Mine was strictly just how well are they doing for their team? And really, I mean, it seems like a very simplified way of ranking a head coach, but I mean, obviously is their team performing to the level that they're supposed to based on the coach? I mean, I don't know if any of you guys have anything to do with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but when you look at that team as a whole, right, they barely hang on under Mike Tomlin to his perfect haven't had a losing season record, but did they overproduce? I mean, I take that kind of stuff into account as to where they're at versus where they should be at.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, expectations is a big time thing. And that's why it's such a narrative award year in and year out.
Yeah. Player management is always something to look at too. But I mean, again, it's as a head coach, you are the one ultimately that owns that record and owns the performance of the team. So it's up to you to make sure it meets what the ownership wants, what the fans want, and ultimately what the players want. So all that will factor into our power rankings. But we got to tell you about Circa Sports. Circa Millions and Circa Survivor are back. You want $14 million in guaranteed prizes? It's up for grabs with the Circa Millions and Circa Survivor. With Circa Millions, you get 5 NFL against the spread picks every single week to play off of. And for Circa Survivor, just like any other Survivor platform out there, pick a different money line winner each week. Hope you advance. Best part about this, go enter in Las Vegas. Have some fun in Las Vegas. Go gamble a little bit, right? Go relax in some of those 5 million star hotels. Go enter the Circa Survivors and Circa Millions. And then go back home. Even if it's not a legal gambling state, you can continue to play all season long. Plus, if you're out there in the last week of August, you're going to get to see Sean and Ryan from the Sports Gambling Podcast Mothership Show. They're going to be out there having some fun. You go have some fun with them as well. More details, you want to find them now at circasports.com. That's circasports.com. All right, so I think we're all in agreement that it will be Jonathan Gannon as the first coach on the list, right?
Yeah.
Arizona Cardinals have a lot of work. We're looking all that good. But all right, so as we start to we'll do this like we always do, and we'll just sort of go around the horn, and we'll give you guys now we go 1 to 10 because obviously the number 1 is usually unanimous, but in this case, I don't know if it is. So should we go 10 to 1 this time or always 1 to 10? I ask this every time, but
I think JMark should decide this time around.
I like 1 to 10 in case you guys make a really good case for somebody that I didn't put on there. I can sneak him in at 10. I'm like, you know what? You convinced me. He's getting on my list.
Selfish reasons for doing. All right, fine. Ryan, start us off with your first coach in the power rankings.
So I went back and forth on this, and this used to be a unanimous number 1. I think we can all agree it was the hoodie in New England. I think Big Red in Kansas City is making a run for it, but I'm still going with Bill Belichick. I still think what he's been able to do for as long as he's been able to do it, he's 262 and 108 in New England. I know a lot of it's with Tom Brady, but I think he also should get credit. I think people don't give him enough credit for finding Tom Brady, for sticking with Tom Brady over Drew Bledsoe I'm going way back now, 20 years. But, I mean, that's the single decision that prolonged this dynasty that they had. And let's be honest here, too. Brady wasn't Brady until the second half of his tenure in New England. It was Bill Belichick's defense. I'm still going with Bill Belichick, even though the GM Bill Belichick has hurt the coach Bill Belichick here recently, especially with putting Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator last year. I'm still scratching my head over that. So Belichick over Andy Reid, barely.
The disrespect. Oh my goodness. I agree. I mean, it is tough when you look at the tenure of their careers. I ended up putting Andy Reid here. And the reason is, there was a lot of people. I was one of them that said Tom Brady's not a good quarterback. He's just in a good system. It's just Belichick's system. This is all because of Bill Belichick. And then Tom Brady leaves, and Tom Brady continues to have success in a different system. And Belichick struggles to find anything besides just that defensive identity. So, and then you take Andy Reid, who, he is benefited by having Patrick Mahomes right now, right? So that's tough too. But I just think that the scheme that he's built and the way that whole team functions, where Sure, Patrick Mahomes is there, but I don't think it matters who else is on that team. They're going to have success. So I had to go with Andy Reid at number 1.
Okay, so the reason that you just said exactly the way you said, it doesn't matter who's there, that Chiefs team's still going to be good. And that's because they have good players right now. I don't know. We haven't seen them not have good players. So I want to see Andy Reid coach with the guys that San Francisco 49ers have had for the last 3 seasons in a row, the quarterback struggles, the revolving door at running back for a while, and the fact of all that happening, and Kyle Shanahan still has made it to the playoffs as many times, still knocking on the championship door as many times as he has. Look, I may be biased toward the Niners, but Kyle Shanahan's got to be number 1 for me because of the fact that expectations for the 49ers are so high. And it doesn't matter who's a quarterback. Is it Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it Trey Lance? Is it Brock Purdy? Is it Sam Darnold this year? If it's Sam Darnold and Kyle Shanahan has a winning season, that guy better get coach of the year, because I'm telling you right now, if he's gonna make it to the playoffs with Sam Darnold, then that's some super coaching. But again, I'm telling you right now, Andy Reid has all pro every position, right? Bill Belichick, yeah, okay, you could probably make a case for him, but the Patriots weren't really all that good last year, and I don't know that they're going to make a gigantic leap this year. But the Niners have managed to sustain, at the very least, playoff caliber football with a so banged up everything. Tight end, it could be the quarterback, it could be the receivers, Debo, Kittle, like these guys get hurt, right? You bring in McCaffrey and all of a sudden it shoots up. So for everything that it's worth and for everything he's gone through to continue the high level that they got in San Francisco, it's got to be Kyle Shanahan with the bullet. And like I said, I know I'm a Niner fan, but you got to recognize what's going on over there.
I like that all 3 of us had a different top dog. So this is good content for the NFL pod. Yeah, I like Kyle Shanahan. He's high on my list too. I'll go right into my number 2 for you, Rod. I kind of teased it already. JMark's number 1. I got Big Red. Now you got 2 Super Bowls. Yeah, he's got Patrick Mahomes, but he did it with Donovan McNabb as well. And he did it with Mike Vick on basically not rehab, I guess dog rehab is what you'll call that situation. But I mean, the guy, Alex Smith, so he's one at a high level, but it took a guy like Pat Mahomes, like kind of with Bill Belichick, with Tom Brady, to really get over the hump. Oh, by the way, Bill Belichick went to the playoffs with the Browns. That was my tiebreaker.
That's fair. Yeah, with the worst odds to win coach of the year, because as we said, it's a narrative based. Everybody expects him to do well. Sorry, Rod, it's not Kyle Shanahan. He's coming up. Don't worry. Andy Reid. So it's just kind of interesting how you have one of the best coaches, but he's got the worst odds there. At number 2, I got Bill Belichick. We talked about how it's been years and years and years and years of consistency. And despite having Tom Brady, one thing remains in New England that has continued to remain. And I imagine no matter where Belichick is, whether it's Patriots elsewhere, this will always be the case, that their defense is one of the better defenses in the league always, no matter what. So you got to give credit to a guy like that can always field a good defense. So, yeah, I got him at number 2.
Yeah, and I got Andy Reid at number 2. A lot of the cases that you guys already made as far as what's going on, but I'll also add that we talked about how he's surrounded by all pros at every position, but there are coaches who can tank an all-pro team. So for him to be able to continue to motivate these all-stars, because listen, when you win a couple of Super Bowls as a player, you feel invincible and you feel like you can go and do whatever you want and be whoever you want and, basically just run amok all over not just the world, but the league, right? To be able to harness all of those egos into one place, you have to have a very strong managerial skill. And obviously Andy Reid's got that. Team keeps winning. Can't slide him farther down than second in this list.
Yeah, no,
Agreed.
he's Big Red's Mr. Consistency. So it's quite the list. So do you want me to go right into number 3, Rod?
Yes, sir. Go for it.
So I will go to the NFC West, and I'm not going to go with Kyle Shanahan. I'm going to go with your arch rival, He trades away Russell Wilson, and they get better. He's got a Super Bowl. Should have 2 if Russell Wilson hadn't audibled on the 1-yard line. Pete Carroll, he's been really good in Seattle. I think he just gets the most out of his talent year in and year out. Yes, he's goofy. Yes, he's energetic. He's running up and down the sidelines like a maniac. And he was good in college as well. I got Pete Carroll as my number 3. I know that's a little bold.
Where's the mute button?
Eject.
I'll make things better here. I got Kyle Shanahan at number 3. Rod, you kind of laid it out that it's not the players on the field for the 49ers. It's the scheme that Kyle Shanahan has built, right? Whether that's on offense or defense, I feel like, they seem to be one of the most injured teams year in and year out on both sides of the ball. You got big name defenders getting hurt. You got your starting quarterbacks getting hurt. Wide receivers, running back, it's just a whole trickle thing. Even the line, and they still produce. They still are in every single game, and they keep winning. So it's hard not to consider him in my top 5. I got him slotted at 3.
It makes me wonder too, if he had a roster along the lines of, well, now he's about to have Sam Darnold. So the Carolina Panthers, could he turn something like that into, he's got Darnold and McCaffrey. So if he had the entirety of the Panthers roster, could he turn that into a winning team? That, my friends, would probably catapult you into coach of the year status. So we'll definitely see what happens there. I'll get to my number 3 in a second, but before I do, let me remind you that Underdog Fantasy is one of our fine sponsors. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog is giving away $15 million in prizes. Plus, Underdog Pick'em is also a great way to get down on your favorite MLB, NFL. It's too many letters. And now we found out NASCAR Pick'em is there as well. So have some fun with that. So many ways to win, so many ways to play over on Underdog, and Underdog is available in a ton of states. Go now to underdogfantasy.com. Use our promo code SGPN. You're going to get a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. Underdogfantasy.com, promo code SGPN. All right, so for my third is not Bill Belichick. I'm going to give the nod to the Baltimore Ravens and John Harbaugh over there, mainly because, well, first of all, to the fact that Lamar Jackson is now finally settled in and wonderful. I expect to see great things from him. But again, another reason why Lamar wanted to stay is because of his coach, right? He knows that John Harbaugh is going to give him the better opportunity to win out of anybody. I don't think he really wanted to walk, right? I know for as much as everybody was speculating that maybe he would go somewhere, I don't think there was any thought in his mind he wanted to go anywhere else. If this was a different head coach, if this was a different situation of head coach, he may have wanted to leave and not stay and not test the water and test the free agency waters, but he wanted to stay. And look, for what it's worth too, John Harbaugh has had a team that is fraught with injuries as well and continued to keep them in the conversation, right? They're not necessarily winning AFC championships or even AFC South championships, but or North championships rather. Did they move south? I think they moved south. But yeah, so they're at least keeping him in the conversation. So again, John Harbaugh is doing more than I think it's expected of the Baltimore Ravens, given what their situation is, right? They're triple option threat and they run the ball all the time. But now, hopefully, if they start passing more and get more involved, like I said, John Harbaugh to me is doing more than what the most people expect outside of Baltimore, I think, because everybody outside of Baltimore is like, they'll be okay. But they're continuing to overachieve, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, I see. Like guys like him and Tomlin are so interesting to rank. You could even throw Mike McCarthy in there just because of how long he's been in it as well. For my next guy, I went to I kind of went outside the box again, and he's also a former Philadelphia Eagle coach, and he landed down south in the state of Florida. He's now the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I got Doug Pederson. Instantly takes over the biggest dumpster fire, goes to the playoffs, wins a playoff game. He won a Super Bowl in Philly. He honestly got screwed. Like they had a bunch of injuries. Carson Wentz was a disaster, and then they fired him and got rid of him. But he's landed on his feet, and all he's done is turn Jacksonville all of a sudden into a can't miss AFC South contender. So I got Doug Pederson at number 4 on my list.
I wondered how high he would go on Ryan's list. I was just waiting.
I love
With
Dougie P.
I know you do. I was just waiting to see when he came up. I do not have Dougie P at number 4. Instead, I have a guy that we've kind of mentioned here and there already in conversation, Mike Tomlin. I just think if you look at his over 500 record that he's managed to keep doing, and you keep hearing that he's not going to, right? Ben Roethlisberger's retiring. They're not going to be able to keep it up. Guess what he did? Le'Veon Bell is holding out. They're not going to be able to keep it up. Guess what they did? TJ Watt, he got hurt. That's the biggest part of their defense. They're not going to be able to compete. They did. And he did it with Kenny Pickett. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Lean in here to hear it. Kenny Pickett's not that good. I don't think Kenny Pickett is a franchise quarterback, and he still managed to just get there to get that 500 record. I just think he's always against all odds. He's going to do it. No matter what, he's going to do it. He's at least going to perform with the team. Sure, maybe they're not winning Super Bowl after Super Bowl, but they're still staying competitive. They're still having a winning record. And it's impressive that he's been able to keep that going on year in and year out, despite injuries, despite player changes, despite everything else.
Yep, you stole mine, and that is definitely it, Mike Tomlin, because, again, the reason that he continues to leapfrog guys like Bill Belichick and all that to me is because, like you said, he just has done with Ben Roethlisberger on the tail end of his career, still managing to stay above 500. There's teams that have had fantastic quarterbacks, Denver Broncos, that have struggled to stay above the 500 mark, right? And so when you have an aging Ben Roethlisberger and you can continue to make him into a winning quarterback on the field, or whoever it is at that matter, lose Le'Veon Bell, whatever, you got to back up for that, right? Najee Harris, not as effective as you want him to be. That's all right. We still got all these other guys that can help out. So, yeah, I mean, Mike Tomlin, kudos to him. I may have put him at second if the Steelers would have done any better last season.
Yeah, no, he always finds a way to get the most out of his talent. At number 5, I'll go to your guy. I'll go with the flat cap, Kyle Shanahan. Told you he was going to make my top 5, Rod. So 52-46 in San Fran, but the first 2 years was an outlier because they didn't have the roster or anywhere near the quarterback. I mean, they traded for Jimmy G mid-season the one time, and he won all his starts. We've seen when he has Jimmy G, they win all their games, or Brock Purdy. If they could just stay healthy, the biggest knock on Shanahan is he kind of chokes in big games, whether it was in Atlanta or San Francisco with the double-digit lead. Sorry, Rod, I didn't want to bring it up, but that would be the biggest knock on Shanahan. But it is something said for getting there, like you said. 3 out of 4 NFC championships. So, yeah, I got Shanahan rounding out my top 5.
Yeah, in the top 5 but the bottom of your top 5. Come on.
Ryan is jockeying to get muted right now. I know Nick agrees with Ryan, but still,
hey, he's done good with the backup quarterbacks, but he didn't win a Super Bowl with Nick Foles and Carson Wentz. That's pretty damn good. When I just thinking about how impressive that is now, looking back. I mean, Carson Wentz died after he stopped playing with Doug Pederson.
That's fair.
I saw it firsthand.
And Fortune agreeing as a 49ers fan. So at number 5 to round out my top 5, I got John Harbaugh. You guys kind of laid it out that he's done a good, consistent job. Even before Lamar, he was doing a good, consistent job. The Ravens were a team that nobody wants to play, right? Because that defense is punishing. Now they're finally getting the pieces on offense with Lamar. I know he's been there a while, but now the drama has passed, so hopefully they can take that step forward. He's been paid. I just think the Harbaughs in general, right? Both Harbaughs, great coaches. They come from a good lineage there. They are both really good coaches. And John, still in the NFL here, didn't leave to go coach some terrible Michigan team. So kudos to John for sticking around. and yeah, he's rounds out my top 5.
Well, I have to do it. I have to talk about him because it'd be irresponsible for me as a NFL analyst to not put him in there. But I will just say that, yes, Pete Carroll made my top 5. But because of the fact that you lose Russell Wilson, kind of like you were talking about, Ryan, you lose Russell Wilson, you make Geno Smith a thing. Like, I know Geno Smith would have probably made himself a thing in his own right, but I have to think that Pete Carroll brought the best out of him, giving him the full nod of, listen, this is your team. I am not looking for another quarterback. You will. And then they reward him at the end of the season for how well he's done, right? I mean, he made that running game better just by being him. And I don't know. It's just there. That's all the praise I can muster for Pete Carroll. He did good with not a lot. So he gets 5th for me. And that's all I can do.
Well, you know what, Rod? You went in NFC West, and I'll go outside the box for my 3rd NFC West coach at number 6. I got Sean McVay. He's 60-38, and that includes last year, which was a dumpster fire at 5-12. I think people forget the situation he took over. Jeff Fisher, all he could do was go 7-10 every year, 7-9, because they only played 16 games. McVay gets there. They go to the playoffs every year. He goes to the Super Bowl with Jared Goff. They trade for Matt Stafford. They win it. I mean, I don't know how much longer he's going to coach. There's rumors he's going to go to the booth. But, I mean, in terms of McVay, he's instantly turned the LA Rams into just a juggernaut in his just 6 years there. And, you know, it does really make me feel good that Dan Snyder, who will be executed tomorrow from Washington owner, had the Shanahans, McVay, LaFleur, Mike McDaniel, and he chose RG3 over all of them. So rest in peace, Dan Snyder. Good riddance.
I like it. Number 6, I got Ryan's guy, Dougie P. Ryan, I'm surprised Ron Rivera hasn't made your list yet. I mean, a guy that is never out of the playoff race. Anyways, in his head, he's not. Yeah, Doug
Would
Pederson.
Be eliminated?
Yeah, I mean, he's always in it. You know, you kind of said it. Doug Pederson's done it in different places, and the fact that he came into Jacksonville with how terrible Jacksonville was, especially after the whole Urban Meyer thing and everything that went on there, and to turn that team around the way he did, and to go on that run that they went on at the end of the season, which of course has given them very high expectations this year. But I think he's a guy that he can keep his team level-headed, and he can keep his team performing under those high expectations. So I got Doug Pederson at 6.
Never mind. I was muted. Thanks, Nick. For those of you who listen to the podcast proper and heard that elongated silence, that was for the watching viewers. Nick Fortune said to mute me because of my Pete Carroll take, so I did. So yeah. All right. Well, listen, I think that Zach Taylor earns a little bit of credit here for the Bengals as well. So I'm going to put him in my 6th position. The Bengals have stopped being a laughingstock. The Bengals are now a team, obviously, with the young Joe Burrow, with Joe Mixon as their running back, who's doing fantastically well. Jamar Chase, right? Boyd, Higgins, all of these guys. Now you can name more than 2 Bengals players and even on defense as well. So for that to happen, I mean, those of us who are old enough to remember when the Bengals were horrible for those few years in there, for them to be able, for that team to be able to now be an AFC contender and not laughed at in that conversation, that's huge. And so I think that's definitely something and they've been that way for a couple of years now. So, I mean, he probably should be a little bit higher in my rankings, but I think I found a nice sweet spot for him in 6th, because you talk about expectations, and that team now is expected to be a part of the AFC conversation week in and week out and season in and season out.
Yeah, he's done a good job, and I'll keep it right in the AFC North. I guess I have this guy lower than most. Mike Tomlin, yes, he's famous for the non-losing seasons. I feel like, though, at times they have underperformed when they've had really, really good teams. Sometimes they've bowed out in the early rounds when they've been 13-3, losing to Jacksonville right off the top of my head. But regardless, Mike Tomlin, he's awesome. He's won over 63% of his games. He gets the most out of his guys. I mean, who doesn't want to play for Mike Tomlin? So that's why I have him at number 7 on my list.
Not to mention, he just looks like a badass on the sideline.
He is a badass.
Aviators.
Yeah.
This is so at number 7, I have Pete Carroll, and he was kind of the last one that it's like, I have to throw him in here. After this, it was like this jumbled mess of there's a lot of names that probably deserve to be in the top 10, but I couldn't decide who. So Pete Carroll, like you guys said, just the years of success, and then the fact that I think everybody expected them to take a step back and fail after getting rid of Russell Wilson. They did the opposite. They seemed to play better. And just the fact that he's been able to get that out of his team. And if you think about, like, he had such a successful college career, then he goes to the NFL, continues to keep it going. I mean, this is just years and years and years of success. So I had to put him in here, and he made number 7 on mine.
Well, see, good. You put him lower than me, which makes me feel a little better about life.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm done saying nice things about Pete Carroll. I will say nice things about Doug Pederson, though. I will put him on my list as the next head coach in my rankings for everything that you guys said before, and really for what's to come too. I mean, the excitement level in Jacksonville hasn't been this high in a very long time since we saw probably in the early days of their existence that the excitement level was this high. When Mark Brunell was their quarterback, and everybody was excited about Brunell winning some Super Bowls with Jacksonville. So I think the future is bright for them. I think he's going to continue to make that team a much better team as long as he stays there. So, again, he deserves a place, and I think this is a good spot for him.
Yep. Yeah, no, Dougie P's the best. And I'll go to the rival of my last pick, Tomlin. I'll go to John Harbaugh in Baltimore. Basically what you could say about Tomlin is what you could say about Harbaugh. And that's why it's been so fun to watch those two, because they came in, I think, the identical year, 2008. And then in their first years as head coach, they meet up in the AFC Championship. He's been a model of consistency, just like Tomlin. Maybe you could nitpick that they should have came up a couple games in the playoffs in years, but I mean, to be able to get to that level, win at the level that those two guys have done, that's impressive over an era where everybody gets fired within 4 or 5 years, it seems. So John Harbaugh at number 8 for me, Rod and JMark.
Yeah, so number 8, I went with a guy that I feel like is kind of people have forgotten about quickly in 1 year, but Sean McVay. I mean, he went from this mad scientist, one of the brightest young minds in the NFL, this young guy that it has such a high-powered offense and everything, to nobody's really talking about him or the Rams in general, it seems like. I get the fact Stafford's older and they had injuries last year and did not do well, but I still think he's one of the better coaches in the league. Like I said, I had a whole bunch of guys written down here that I could throw in here, but Sean McVay came next on my list just because I think you're going to see now they have low expectations, and I think he's going to exceed them by quite a bit. I think you're going to see it get back together. They're going to field a better team than people are expecting, and they're going to be talking about how brilliant and bright Sean McVay's young mind is.
Blah.
Sorry, Rod.
Sorry. But
you got a lot of good coaches in your league.
That's what I'm saying. Like 3 out of the 4 are all inside the top 10, which tells you something. And again, I think McVay is a perfect spot here for that as well, which is why I have him there as well. I didn't want to put him any higher because the Rams, I know that you said that they're still above 500, but boy, I got to tell you, something about those guys just irks me every single time. And they have the Niners number more often than not. So, but you're right. I mean, he has made it to where LA is a destination for players. The Rams in particular are a destination for players. And guys like Aaron Donald want to stay there. And like I said, there's a lot to be said about having a coach that players want to play for. And those are the guys that we usually see at the top of these lists, right? These power rankings, because their teams excel because the players want to play for them. And so LA is one of those. Now, whether or not they get the players to play there, that's another thing. But, for the most part, when they come, they actually produce a little bit. So whatever. That's about as much as I can say about McVay too.
Yeah, the good news, Rod, he's probably not going to be coaching much longer. It sounds like he wants to get into the booth. So that's a perfect transition into my next pick. And JMark mentioned a guy that everybody forgot about, McVay. Everybody forgot about Sean Payton because he was in the booth this last year for Fox. Back in Denver, we saw New Orleans kind of turn into a dumpster fire a little bit this year, despite having a talented roster. Drew Brees retires. He's able to still win 9 games with Taysom Hill. And then obviously him and Brees, a sustained success, just like Harbaugh with the Ravens, Tomlin and Roethlisberger with the Steelers. Same thing happened in New Orleans. They won a Super Bowl around the same time, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I kind of view all three of those coaches around the same. Older guys that have just been on a hell of a run. But the difference is now we get to see if Sean Payton can really go up even more on this list if he's able to turn Russell Wilson around, in my opinion. So Sean Payton at number 9.
He's in the 4 names with question marks of mine at number 10 because I want to see what he does without Drew Brees. It's like, was Sean Payton such a great coach because of Drew Brees, or was Drew Brees such a good quarterback because of Sean Payton? You'll get in those. It's like, which was it? So I really want to see what he does now in a new situation, a new quarterback, new team, everything. I'm going to go with a different Sean at number 9, Sean McDermott. I think the way that they play, the way that he set up their offense and their defense, it's hard to discredit him on a top coaching level. Yeah, they got amazing players, but he's getting those players to perform year after year after year. I think that they have a lot to kind of fight against, with the Bengals looking better, the Chiefs being such a powerhouse, but still one of the better teams that I wish he was coaching the Bears. I don't want the Bears to play the Bills, that kind of situation. So had to put him in my top 10.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. He'll probably make mine. Oh, no, he won't. Spoiler alert, he's not. And I don't know what it is. I just feel like, I don't know. You made all the good arguments there. I won't try to counteract them, but I just don't get the warm and fuzzies about that whole situation over there, just because maybe I'm too hyped on the breaking tables aspect of it all. But so for mine, my next one is going to be Kevin O'Connell. I mean, listen, why did we kind of switch or brush over the fact that Minnesota is good, and they were 13-4 last year, and Kevin O'Connell in his first year as head coach turned around an 8-9 record, right? A 7-9 before that. So 2 years of below 500. Everybody turns to him as the next guy in Minnesota. He does nothing short of put them back over 500 and put them on top of the NFC North, right? So, I mean, how that quick turnaround for them, and they haven't lost too many people, right? I mean, Dalvin Cook, yeah, but I think they're going to be fine with Mattson. It's not the same, but it's all right. They got Justin Jefferson still. They've got, all kinds of good players there. So, Kevin O'Connell, like I said, people are brushing over him because he's not the sexy name. He hasn't been a coach for a very, very long time, but he took a okay team and made them better. And I think he's going to continue to do that coming into this season. And I still think Minnesota is going to be, a team that to contend for the NFC in the future. And boy, Nick's just not loving me today, is he?
No, you're upsetting Nick.
You Niner fans are not sticking together today, Rod. So
apparently not.
Yeah, it's crazy because now that we're at number 10 and I'm looking down at the list and I'm like, there's a lot of good coaches like JMark mentioned. Sean McDermott's been really good in Buffalo. Where do you rank Brian Daboll and Nick Sirianni? They've only been a head coach for 1-2 years. LaFleur has over 70% winning percentage in Green Bay. O'Connell, you just made the case, Rod. Shit. I know everybody kills him. Mike McCarthy has a Super Bowl, and he's won over 60% of his games. I know he doesn't look the part, and he coaches the Cowgirls, but, I came to a guy that in 5 years, he seems to always get the most out of his team. They were going to win the division probably again last year, and maybe we weren't singing the praises of Jacksonville as much now. He was a 1 seed 2 years ago. I'm going Mike Vrabel in Tennessee. He's won 60% of his games. Just they reflect the way that Mike Vrabel acts, coaches, played. He's a Belichick disciple. He gets the most out of that roster. So I'll go Vrabel at my number 10 on my final pick of the top 10 coaches for me. A lot of good coaches, man. Ron?
There are. I mean, I got Nick Sirianni, Brian Daboll, Sean Payton. I feel bad. Zach Taylor, I didn't put him in my top 10, but Rod, you made an excellent case. He should be in there. I also have Mike Vrabel. How can you not include a coach that offered to cut his own dick off if the team won the Super Bowl? I mean, that is a good coach. I don't know any better way to motivate a team than that. I mean, to threaten something like that.
But did they do it, Justin? Did they do it?
Right. They got damn close that year. No. And now, we saw Derrick Henry got hurt 2 years ago. They still had success. So it's not just Derrick Henry. Now it's going to be how do they do now that they've added DeAndre Hopkins? Something that we kind of didn't
Yeah.
talk about yet, but DeAndre Hopkins going to the Titans, I think, is going to elevate Vrabel's offense. Whether it's Ryan Tannehill or Will Levis at the quarterback, Hopkins demands attention from the defense, and not everybody can just stack up against Derrick Henry anymore. And that defense still performs very well as well. So it's going to be really interesting, but I got Vrabel at 10.
Yeah, I guess I can get behind that one. I still love Tennessee. I do have love for Tennessee. But yeah, I don't know. It's just tough because that's not a team that you think is glamorous until you look down at the record and you're like, oh, okay, they actually did a little better than,
Right.
than I
Oh, they're
thought
the
they were
one
going to.
seed. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They're like, oh, really? How what?
Yeah.
When did that
With
happen?
Ryan Tannehill.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, for my final spot, and like you guys said, I mean, this is the spot where it got tough because you could make a case for any number of people. I could have put Bill Belichick in there for all the reasons that Ryan did earlier and continued to make a case for. But I guess you can't really not have this list without Nick Sirianni in it. The Eagles are the Eagles, right? And as much as it pains me, and Nick's gonna scream at me again for putting the Eagles up here. Sorry, Nick. But listen, I mean, the Eagles have done very well to turn their identity around too. They were 9-7, 4-11, 9-8, and all of a sudden now last season they're 14-3. That is a gigantic jump. And then of course knocking on the door for a Super Bowl, and you can't ignore that. I mean, and that's a lot to do with coaching, obviously, especially when you got some high-powered players in there. Like I said, those egos never shrink, right? And you've got to find a way. You got to be a good manager enough to be able to keep all these guys from or seeing the big picture and heading toward it rather than trying to just look out for themselves. And Sirianni's done a good job of that, right? To the point where he almost got them a Super Bowl ring. So, however much you want to consider it almost being a Super Bowl ring, but at the same time, he got them to the threshold, and they obviously didn't come through, but it was the Chiefs. Hardly anybody can knock that wall over. So, Sirianni for me, he's going to wind up in the last spot.
I was going to meet you if you said Dan Campbell. So,
Oh God, yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't want to go that. Listen, I've already alienated enough listeners.
Yeah, I was gonna say, a lot of people have him on the list. I'm like, time out. He hasn't even made the playoffs yet alone Coach of the Year. You know what? My biggest takeaway from all this, my team is screwed. Our coach doesn't even know that we're out of the playoffs, although he's been to a Super Bowl.
Playoffs.
True.
All right. So listen, now that we've got our power rankings down, let's do our look at the odds as we always do every week for Coach of the Year. Pulling these off of DraftKings right now. I'm sure there's other books out there with them. So if your favorite book has them, feel free to scroll along with us. This is the guy that nobody wants at the top of their list, and that's Dan Campbell. He is at 8.5 to 1. The favorite gentleman as the Coach of the Year for the NFL. What say you, my friends, on this favorite?
Wasn't he the favorite last year, JMark, when we did it? I think he was the favorite.
He was pretty
last
close.
year.
Yeah.
And we thought he might get it because of Hard Knocks, but I don't know. I think the expectations are so high now for Detroit. They got to be like the 1 or 2 seed for him to win the award because the expectation is they win the division now. They're by far the favorite in the North all of a sudden.
Yeah. Here's the thing with the Lions. I don't think they've gotten progressively better than last year. I mean, they've made some improvements, but has it been huge? Not necessarily. 9-8 last year, the teams they beat: Packers twice, Bears twice, Giants, Jags, Vikings, Jets, and Commanders. My argument there, 2 quality wins, right? Jags and Vikings. The rest of those teams, sorry, Ryan, I know Commanders were there, but Bears were there twice, did not have great years. I wouldn't say that is a big feat at beating those teams. So I don't see it. I don't think they're going to ascend to this darling team that everybody thinks. And who wants to bet on a favored Lions team? Not this guy.
No, but not me.
Well, listen, he'd have to win the NFC with Jared Goff at quarterback, David Montgomery at running back, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, Marvin Jones, and Josh Reynolds at receiver. Does that sound like an imposing lineup?
No.
And then defensively, yes, Aiden Hutchinson is there, right? But past that, like Emmanuel Mosley coming over from San Francisco, he's good, but not somebody I think is going to win them the division, let alone the conference. So, yeah.
I think the Lions could go like 9-8, maybe 10-7, but that's not going to win you the coaches of the year award. You're going to have to go like 13-4 with the expectations that we've put or the media's put on the Lions all of a sudden.
Yeah, 6-11. That's I say 6-11.
You're not biased.
All right, let's move to the next guy on the list. We talked a little bit about him in our power rankings. It's Sean Payton at plus 900. Listen, as a feel-good story, absolutely. In practice, I don't know, man. That's a lot to ask for a coach to come into that situation. And everybody was high on Denver last year, right? So has anything changed other than Sean Payton? And will he change anything to the point where this makes it worth a plus 900 to bet on him as a coach of the year?
I'm actually surprised that he's not the favorite, because this is going to be a narrative, especially from all his media buddies, that he turned around Russell Wilson if they're able to have a good year. Nathaniel Hackett was atrocious. We all agree on that. So it's going to, I think they're going to be competitive around 8-9 wins, but the conference is loaded. The division's loaded. You got to play Kansas City twice, LA twice. If they're able to get into the playoffs, maybe he's got his case, but I don't know. I still think that I would not take that. I want longer odds for Sean Payton.
You said it. It's going to be hard for them to even make the playoffs in a division where you play the Chiefs and the Chargers. I mean, those are two really good teams. And then if you get in the playoffs, you probably have the Bills, you probably have the Bengals, maybe even the Jets if they reach expectations that everybody thinks. I just don't see it. Not at all.
Yeah, and again, just as you're looking at these favorites, it's like I get it as you go down. I'll just touch on Andy Reid is at plus 5,000 to win it.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's just because he's going to. Todd Bowles, it's same plus 5,000. Like, it's funny that Andy Reid is plus 5,000. So is Todd Bowles, and then Mike McCarthy at plus 4,000. It's like, we get it, guys. We don't, that Andy Reid's probably not going to win this coach of the year. And what happens if he does? I mean, listen, 50-1 is not bad to sort of take a speculation on that he does something spectacular enough to win, even though winning the Super Bowl didn't get it last year. I don't know, maybe something happens and he does, but yeah, again, that's crazy. Matt Eberflus is 11-1 at this one. Yeah, that's all you right there, buddy. JMark, what say you on that one?
I mean, I expect the Bears to be a lot better, but don't make that bet. don't bet on Flus to win it. I mean, they're never going to give it to a Chicago quarterback, or I mean, coach. Sorry.
I will say, hey, you could go from worst to first. That tends to fit the bill.
True.
But yeah, I don't know. They're not a big narrative town, though.
Right? Yeah.
Everybody just pushes the Bears aside. It's bullshit, JMark. I know.
So go ahead. I'm sorry, Jay.
Well, I was going to say my favorite one here, not to steal what the odds you're reading there. Doug Pederson, 22-1 plus 2,200. I really like that price. I think he has a really good chance of winning it. The second year, Dougie P tends to do great with their young quarterbacks in the second year. I think that's a really good value you're getting for him right there.
I agree, especially because he did not win it in 2017 or last year. He finished runner-up in both. Let's paint a picture where the Jaguars somehow are the 1 seed because they have the weakest division compared to Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cincinnati. If they're the 1 seed, you can pencil him in. So at 22-1, I like it. Another one I like right next to him at 22-1, I like his former offensive coordinator, Frank Reich. Comes over, takes over Carolina. They got some weapons. If they're able to make a little bit of step here, that's where I would like to take some stabs at with this coach's market. Not that plus 850 and 9-1. I like this 22-1 because I think the narratives are the same.
Agreed.
Yeah, and for me too, I was really just going to rattle off the rest of them. So Justin, you did exactly what I was going to do anyways, and I was just going to say, if you look down on this list, is there any that stand out at you? Because like you said, as you get down into the McVays at 30-1, the McDermott's at 35-1s, the Vrabels even at 35-1, it's difficult to see them because the situation hasn't changed there for those guys. They all have good teams. They all are going to take their teams to, whatever the playoffs probably and beyond for some of these guys. So those don't generally win coach of the year. It's the guys that make a gigantic difference in their program. And like you said, Doug Pederson's one of them, which is why the narrative around Sean Payton is there as well. Arthur Smith at 14-1. I don't think you can touch that. And it's like, they sort of price you out of this. And for me, if I was to do anything, maybe Mike Tomlin at 25-1, if the Steelers can get into the playoffs and beyond, then, again, it's another one of those situations where Tomlin is exceeding expectations as far as what he can do with a ragtag bunch of guys. So, but again, I don't know. That's just a 25-1, because anything's past that. Zach Taylor, we talked about in Cincinnati, 28-1. You expect Cincinnati to be good. So if they're good again, then that's par for the course. So you can't really do that. Harbaugh 30-1. Carroll 25-1. If Carroll makes the playoffs, that could be one right there.
Yeah, if they dethrone the Niners and somehow push for the 1 seed, I think Pete Carroll's definitely got a case for Coach of the Year once again. JMark's not going to like this one, but let's say Jordan Love somehow is good. Matt LaFleur is definitely going to have a case if somehow the Green Bay won the division after Aaron Rodgers left. So that would be a narrative one as well. He's 16-1.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were telling jokes.
I gave out both your rivals. Where's Ron? Is Ron even on this list? Is he still coaching?
Right. 35-1. Ron
is that
Rivera.
Bieniemy? Oh, I didn't know Bieniemy already replaced him. Del Rio?
All right. Is there anybody else on this list that we feel the need to cover, or is it good and we should let folks go place these futures?
I think we're good, Rod.
Yep,
There'll be plenty more to give out between now and the next 50 days.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot more time to talk this through. But I think we gave you a good solid base to start with. If you want to put your, fraction of a unit on Andy Reid in case the world blows up and he wins and you get 50-1 odds, that's fantastic. Just consider that your what do you call those, investment in your future, as it were. So. All right. Well, as we wrap things up here, as we always do, let's go around the horn, let everybody know where they can find everyone else on social media so they can keep up with us as we count down the last 50 days to the NFL season.
Yeah, you can find me at moneyline_Mac. Yeah, keep the notifications on, subscribe. Don't forget NFL. We got plenty of content in the next 50 days. Go check out the college experience. We got a lot of college football content. Football is king in this country, and we got plenty of content coming your way.
That's right. You can follow me at JMark Football and follow at Old Fashioned FB on Twitter. Lots of stuff coming out for Old Fashioned Football podcast there. And Rod, I don't know if you saw, I left these up here for you. The 10th Mountain Whiskey for the 10th Mountain Army Man there.
I know. I love that. I'm about to get my own bottle here pretty soon, so I can't wait to try it. Yeah. We found out through the mutual channels there that 10th Mountain Whiskey was a thing, and I, of course, served in the 10th Mountain Division a while back, so pretty excited about that and getting to know Ryan here. Not you, Ryan, but the other Ryan that brews it. That's a lot of fun as well. Yes, follow me on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. Link in the bio, everything I got going on, whether it's here for NASCAR as well, in between media. I'm going to be on the back road this week, and also making my debut on the Odds Shopper. I'm going to talk about some women's soccer. How crazy is that? Find all that link. Come follow my ride on Twitter at RJ Villagomez. We'll be back again to talk more betting odds and more power rankings as it goes on. So until then, everybody, have some fun out there. Can't wait for football season, and let it ride.